For Monday, October 5th, 2020, this is the Pro and Con Show, and I am your host, Michael James Ott. Welcome to the show. Always looking to encourage people to be better citizens. And again, I am not trying to preach that I'm, coming from some position that I am all-knowing or I'm a better citizen than everybody else. I'm not. Trust me, I have many years of apathy and frustration and stuff in my rearview mirror, and I'm not, delighted about the way things are going at the moment. But it's very clear to me, based on the last years, that we really need to step in and take some active role. All of us are, all of us citizens, we need to step in and take an active role. I've used the analogy in the past of, the family picnic, and we're the adults, and okay, the kids are over there. Well, the kids are the congressmen and the senators and stuff, and they're playing over there, and we're not paying too much attention. Well, it's got to the place where they're fighting all the time, and they're not doing what's in the best interest of us or themselves, but they're acting more for themselves than us, for sure, and we've got to step in. It's time for us to go get involved with these people in our government. Now, today's show is called TRUMBO, and I wanted to, I need to get this right away here, because I don't want it to, I'm going to show you a very short part of a movie on Netflix. And so here's the background. So TRUMBO is, he's a writer, and this is more or less based on a true story. This fellow got caught up in the whole Red Scare, the communist thing, back in the late 40s and early 50s. So at the end of World War II, the Soviet Union was formed, and I'm not saying that accurately. The Soviet Union was formed, including all of the Eastern European countries that were part of this Soviet bloc, because it was all came from the World War. Okay, and the Russian army had reached a certain place in Europe, and then they had stopped, and that was kind of the containment of communism. And there was a real fear, and that's a word I want to focus on: fear. There was a fear that communism was going to take over large parts of our world, and in fact it did. Soviet Union, China, there were various places. In fact, that's why we fought in Korea, and that's why we fought in Vietnam, for example, was to try to limit the spread of communism. So there was a fear, anxiety amongst people, and unfortunately, fear can then often drive us to do things that we probably shouldn't be doing, and in fact should not be doing. And this is the problem. One of the problems with Mr. Trump's leadership is he is constantly beating the drum of fear. So, and he's basically looking at white people, mostly the people that had a significant, a huge majority at one time in this country, and now less and less. And this whole anxiety about losing your position in the economy, and again, it all comes from our wrong definition of success, right? Which is accumulating wealth, influence, and power. Well, through really bad, frankly, unfair things. The white people in this country had a significant economic and influence, economic and influence advantage over people that weren't white, and step by step, and over and men versus women. I mean, this has been going on for a long time here, where women could not vote, for example, and on and on and on. There's a long history here where people, frankly, that look like me had significant advantages over women or people of color and so on, and step by step, that's appropriately so, has been eroded. And Mr. Trump is now standing in front of the country, and he's screaming at the top of his lungs about how we cannot allow this to be eroded any further. And he's using all kinds of language around it, but the bottom line is he's trying to use fear to cause people to follow him. He's the quote unquote law and order person, right? Because he's been talking, he just constantly yammers about all these horrible things that are happening, and I don't know, 80% of what he says about the streets burning in San Francisco and all this other stuff, he's just totally making it up. But he's pushing that fear and anxiety button over and over and over again, and people, unfortunately, kind of get caught up in that, some significant number of people. And so, this has happened periodically through the history of the world, frankly. And going back to the late 40s and early 50s, this thing with communism was a big thing. And I live here in the state of Wisconsin, and there was a senator from the state of Wisconsin named McCarthy. And McCarthy and some of the other folks around him, they spent years with this bullhorn of communism and communist agents and spies and there were true, and they are today. I'm sure there are today. There's Russian spies and Russian people working to try to cause this country to falter. Okay, but it's not thousands and thousands, it's dozens, and they're doing their little agendas, and yes, we need to be on the lookout for them, but it's not thousands, it's dozens. Okay, and the problem is to beat that drum and to get wealth, influence, and power out of it, like McCarthy tried to do, and now we have another senator from Wisconsin. His name is Ron Johnson, and he's trying to grab hold of the coattails of Mr. Trump and beat that fear drum and do all those kinds of things. And here we go again. Okay, I don't know what it is about the state of Wisconsin. McCarthy, Johnson, two people, same person, separated by decades, same person. Here we go. So anyway, in the wrongful pursuit of snuffing out communism and getting rid of spies, and again, the general fear, the public kind of supported this. A significant portion of the public supported this. This whole witch hunt, if you will, for communists, and it extended to Hollywood, and it extended to this fellow named TRUMBO. And so the movie TRUMBO, which by the way is on Netflix, and it's great. Watch it if you have a couple of hours. It's great. It really is. But the story is about how Mr. TRUMBO, because he, says, well, I am a communist because he believes in, a greater economic equity. So again, we talk about economic inequity and trying to fix it. Well, back in the late 40s and early 50s, if you started trying to talk about trying to fix economic inequality, people would label you as a communist, again, because there was a handful of people who were trying to have influence by using fear. McCarthy, okay, was trying to drive this wedge between people and trying to point at a certain group and say, you can fear them. And by me, McCarthy, being able to point them out to you, I can rise in prestige, and power, and influence. And so Trumbo went through all this stuff and he was blacklisted. He and thousands, a couple of thousand people in the movie industry were blacklisted for several years, and they couldn't get work, and they lost their jobs, and all that economic turmoil, and the hate from the neighbors and the country and stuff like that that they received. It caused all kinds of economic and personal, physical turmoil. And so then, but step by step, Mr. Trumbo and some of these folks that work with him, they step by step tried to get people to get beyond this, to get beyond the fear. And the reality was that over the course of time, the fear level of the Soviet Union started going down, and people started to have less anxiety. And at some point, and apparently here in the 1970s, that anxiety was low enough that many of these blacklisted people were recognized and kind of readopted into the industry. And Mr. Trumbo was one of the most prolific writers in the time, and he wrote a bunch of screenplays and stuff like that, and some of them actually won Academy Awards and stuff like that. But he didn't have any credit for it because he's actually writing these screenplays in the day as it was hidden. He was doing it so-called in the black market. Anyway, I wanted to show you this speech because he accepts effectively a lifetime service award, and he gives this speech, and I think it's great, and I think it's very applicable to these times, and to try to heal us after this horrific time that we've had with all of the fear-mongering going on. So here's just a few minutes toward the end of the movie, Trumbo. I hope you will watch it and reflect upon what he has to say, especially given the way I've kind of put this into perspective. Okay, so here it is, Trumbo.
This next award is for the member who has advanced the literature of motion pictures. Occasionally, there appears among us a person whose virtues are so manifest, who so subordinates his own ego to the concerns of others, who lives in such harmony with all the standards of the community that he is revered and loved by everyone. Such a man, Dalton Trumbo, is not. It gives me great pleasure to present the Writers Guild of America Laurel Award to Dalton Trumbo.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Often, when I stand before the film community, there's an elephant in the room. Me. And I thought I would address that. The blacklist was a time of evil, and no one who survived it came through untouched by evil. Caught in a situation that had passed beyond the control of mere individuals, each person reacted as his nature, his needs, his convictions, and his particular circumstances compelled him to. It was a time of fear, and no one was exempt. Scores of people lost their homes. Their families disintegrated. They lost. And in some even lost their lives. But when you look back upon that dark time, as I think you should every now and then, it will do you no good to search for heroes or villains. There weren't any. There were only victims. Victims because each of us felt compelled to say or do things that we otherwise would not. To deliver or receive wounds which we truly did not wish to exchange. I look out to my family sitting there, and I realize what I've put them through. And it's unfair. My wife, who somehow kept it all together, amazes me. And so, what I say here tonight is not intended to be hurtful to anyone. It is intended to heal the hurt, to repair the wounds which for years have been inflicted upon each other, and most egregiously upon ourselves. Thank you. Thank you, kindly.
So we have some work to do to heal the wounds and to stop hurting ourselves. For the Pro and Con Show, my name is Michael James Ott. And until the next show, bye for now.